All right. So once again, we have we appreciate you guys joining us for the Jaguar podcast. I, Frank DeZoba, with my brother Michael DeZoba, appreciate you guys coming and listening to us. And today we're going to discuss, since we've discussed the lines on both sides of the ball, offensive defense, we figured we just go ahead and compile all of the skill positions into one show, and that's this show. So lucky you. So I guess we got to start off with Duval, don't we?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we got to start and end it with every show.
Okay, so we've done it each time, so I guess that's the thing, right? So let's, I guess, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Duval. We still suck at that, but
yeah, one day we're gonna get that right, man. It's the awkwardness of just being in front of the computer. It's not like you're at a game, you're not watching. Yeah, just it's more natural when you're with people watching a game or whatever. So
that's because you can yell it once the play's like right over. As soon as it's over and it's a great play, you
celebratory.
Built it
right?
out.
Nothing's happened.
Yep. So yeah, we're trying to do it. We're trying to do a countdown.
Yeah, right.
So that's okay. So just don't hold it against us.
Yeah, the defense is, I think, up first, and you're the one that's going to sort of give us the rundown on the defense and let us know how we stand. So what part are you starting at?
All right, so I'm going to start at the linebacker. Since we did the defensive line the previous podcast, I'm going to come right back behind them, and I'm going to start with our linebackers. So at linebackers, we have Miles Jack, Leon Jacobs, Dylan Moses, Shaquille Quarterman, Joe Schobert, Quincy Williams, and Damian Wilson. Okay. Cornerbacks. Now there are a few cornerbacks that I actually left off of this group. I think it was 2 of them. Honestly, I didn't recognize their names. I don't really know anything about who they are. And most likely they probably won't make the team. And even if one of them does, they're not starting and they most likely won't dress. So cornerbacks, I got Tyson Campbell, I got Shaquille Griffin, I had CJ Henderson, Trey Herndon, and Sidney Jones. I'm going to roll right into safeties. So safeties, again, I think I got everybody that we have listed as a safety on our depth chart. Andre Cisco, Rayshon Jenkins, Josh Jones, Daniel Thomas, Gerard Wilson, and your boy, Andrew Winger.
What? Where'd that come from?
I thought you liked Andrew Winger.
Huh?
It wasn't Andrew Winger like your guy?
No.
I thought for sure you were. Every time he would come into the game, you were like, "Oh, look, watch, he's gonna make a play," and then he would get burnt.
No.
Okay, all right. Maybe I'm confusing him with some other white safety from back in the day. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh, Chris Krasinski.
Yes.
That was the guy. Yeah, that was the guy.
That was your dude.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, man. Why? Not all white guys look alike, man. Golly, racist, dude.
They do to me.
No, Wingert's got that Kid Rock thing going on, man. He's I don't know. So I guess we can start here. I guess let's start with safeties.
Okay, that's good.
So, how many safeties do we even keep? What do you think?
Look, I think we keep 4. Like we're so it really depends on how many offensive line, defensive line, tight ends how many linemen we keep. But I think you sort of just want to go into the season with maybe 4 or 5, and you keep that 5th guy either on the practice squad or someplace you can stash him where you just call him up in case you get devastated by injuries. Yeah. But I think you roll with 4. And honestly, I think we have decent safeties. I thought Rayshawn Jenkins, I thought that move, I think he's going to be pretty decent for us. I don't know if he's going to be a game changer, somebody that's out there killing it, but I think he's going to be pretty decent for us, and I definitely think he's an upgrade. Josh Jones, do you remember him?
No, I really don't remember Josh Jones.
So Josh Jones is a guy, I think for the last 2 to 3 years, after every training camp, they're like, this dude is tearing it up. He's blowing up. He's killing. He's making plays. And then right before the season, he gets hurt. And then like you never hear anything from him. So and even now in mini camps, I've heard several of the coaches talk about him. He's a guy that this year it's either put up or shut up. You could easily be out instead of Winger if he gets hurt again, because how many times are you going to take a chance on a 5th round guy who you see talent, but if you're not on the field, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So then you got Daniel Thomas, and I don't know much about Daniel Thomas. He could just be one of those guys who makes the team because he's an extra body, maybe a special teams player. Gerard Wilson, I think, will start opposite Rayshawn Jenkins. So those are our day one starters. That's who we're going to roll out there. I think Andre Cisco backs one of them up. I'm not sure which one he'll back up. I don't think it really sort of matters. But he's definitely going to be number 3. And then I think it's out of Daniel Thomas and Josh Jones and Andrew Winger to find out who that 4th guy is.
Yeah, it seems to me that, having paid attention somewhat to the interview process, Rayshawn Jenkins is the one I think that is kind of the mouthpiece a bit. He seems like the leader guy. He's come in and basically, I don't know. He's taken that. He seems like he's the alpha dog of the safety bunch. He's the. I'm trying to figure out. Like, he's only 1 year sly of being the guy with the most experience. So Jared Wilson has 6 years. Jenkins has 5. And Rudy Ford has 5 as well, but I don't hear much about that guy. So it seems like Rayshawn.
I didn't put Rudy Ford on the list. He's there, but I've never heard of him. It could be a camp body, just somebody to have for competition, what they call competition, but really isn't. So, and I think he is, but potentially the mouthpiece, potentially the leader in that room. But the only reason so far is that I don't recall them ever putting any of the other safeties up for media availability.
Right.
So it just could be that he's the only one that we've heard from. Now he's gotten 2 chances to do it, once when he signed here, and then once again during the mini camp. So the other guys, they just weren't made available. I don't know why, but
well, he seems like a personality too. So and I don't know if that goes into it, but he's one of these guys where you could see possibly him parlaying. He could do something afterwards in some fashion based on his personality. He seems to be a very personable guy in regards to how he meets with the media.
Yeah, I mean, I like his confidence. I like his swagger. Honestly, at this point, though, doesn't mean a hill of beans if you don't do it on the field.
So I'm noticing he's from Miami. So is this somebody you're familiar with?
No, actually, I don't. Are you okay? He's from the city of Miami, but he didn't go to the U.
I don't know. I think it's saying here he went to.
Oh, maybe he did, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's college. He went to Miami, unless it's Miami, Ohio. Usually they'll put Ohio behind that.
Yeah, no. I'm not familiar with him at all in college.
Yeah, so I'll be. I mean, I'm not familiar with Jenkins and as far as his career in the pros goes, and I know Jared Wilson a little bit more. He played okay. He didn't blow me away last year. The whole team sucked. It's just hard to judge anybody when everybody seems to be falling apart. So,
Well, and I definitely think that I think one, okay, so we went out and we signed Rayshon Jenkins. So he's getting money to play. He's going to play. He's locked up. He's playing.
yeah.
Yeah, he's really going to have a huge injury or just completely shit himself in order not to have a starting safety position. Andre Cisco is the guy to watch. And I say that
I
because,
agree.
right, in college, the dude had a nose for the ball. Sometimes it caused him to be out of position, you know. Uh, but in the NFL, sometimes you like those gamblers because you're going to give up points. You're going to get beat here or there. But if you do it at a controlled rate almost, and you get that ball back for us, then it's okay giving up that touchdown. It's okay being out of position, here or there. But I definitely think Gerard Wilson will be the guy that's getting pushed by Andre Cisco. And I think those are our three.
Yeah, I
The
agree
next,
with that.
yeah, the next guy we're going to carry, it can be anybody else that chooses to step up. Whatever Urban Meyer and his staff think are the best four, I think that's the best four that we roll in there with.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that pretty much covers the safety class if you look at it. I mean, it's really those two veterans that we feel solid about. We've got Cisco waiting in the background. Either he'll sit there because the veterans are playing well, or he'll take one of those guys' job, and there's somebody else that they'll feel confident enough in to be the fourth guy. If
Yeah.
if unless somebody else really shines on special
Now
teams.
Winger looks like a really try hard guy. But I just like he didn't make enough plays for me. I saw him out of position a little bit, and like if you're going to get out of position and not make plays, I don't want you. Like
Yeah,
I'm not even going to look at you now. Maybe special teams is where he earns his paycheck, and I'm okay with that. I don't have any issues.
yeah. No, that's I think we got that nailed there.
All right, so cornerbacks. Tyson Campbell, Shaquille Griffin, CJ Henderson, Trey Herndon, Sidney Jones. We have two other cornerbacks on the roster that I saw, but I did not list. I don't think we actually need any other cornerbacks. I thought Sidney Jones, before he got hurt last year, was playing really well. My wife is an Eagles fan. He came from the Eagles. She doesn't really like him very much. She doesn't think he's very good. But from and that's what I was expecting last year, because that's what she told me. She's like, no, he's not very good. And I'm like, well, we just signed him. But then when he got on the field, I thought he played really good. I thought he was decent. Now it could be because we've been so bad that I don't know how to judge good football talent. It's possible, if all you see is bad play everywhere, as soon as you see a bright star in there, you're like, oh my God, this guy can play. And he can play when compared to your guys. But when compared to the rest of the league, he's mediocre at best. So Trey Herndon, I think that dude is a good, like, he doesn't make a ton of plays, but I think he's very solid. And the dude has earned his spot. Like, I guess if that makes sense. Like, he should definitely be our starting day one nickel corner. Like, that's our guy. Then you got CJ Henderson, who had one really good game. His very first game was a really good game. And then after that, it started to decline. Then he got hurt. Yep. So I don't know what happened in game 2 or game 3. I don't know. Maybe that's when all of our wheels started to fall off. And so he was just all caught up in it. I think sometimes that can happen. But I definitely think he's the starter on one of our sides. And then we have Shaquille Griffin. I think he's the free agent we brought in. I think he's solid. I don't think he's spectacular, but I think he's very solid. He's going to start the other side. So those are three starting corners right there. And then to push them or as a safety blanket or as a backup, we have Tyson Campbell, and then we have Sidney Jones sitting there in the backup roles. And honestly, I think that's a fairly good cornerback room.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to go around the league and look at the depth charts of other corner um, rooms and see how it compares. It doesn't jump for me. Shaquille, I think, is exactly what you said. I want him to be. He's interesting because he is sort of. I think we overpaid for him. Now, that being said, that's what you kind of do in free agency. I don't think it's a ridiculous contract. He seems like a really good guy. I think you probably will get what he's got for, I think that's probably fair. So I think he's probably penciled in as the starter. And then CJ, if to me, it's maybe between Tyson and CJ who's going to win that other starting role, because I agree with you. It's kind of weird because you don't hear a lot about Trey Herndon, yet he seems to be the slot corner. I mean, I don't know why you'd change it. I don't know why because he was one of the most consistent players on our defense last year. And Tyson Campbell doesn't look like a slot corner to me. He seems like one of these bigger outside corners that you'd normally want out there. And so I don't really follow that line of reasoning. When we drafted him, this idea that, it seemed like they were trying to get him to, um, to and I don't know if that's to save CJ Henderson's ego a little bit. I don't know what that's about, but I think, in my opinion, you pencil Trey in, you pencil Shaquille in, and then you figure out whether or not Tyson can dethrone CJ Henderson, or light a fire under him. And then you got Tyson waiting in the wings.
Yeah. And I mean, so one of the things they do talk about is they talk about competition. I don't necessarily agree with the fact competition mainly happens for the backups. That's generally where all the competition is. The churn of the bottom of the roster. That's where all the competition plays out. And I don't see this, no matter how much BS this front office talks, I don't see it being any different. You paid Griffin starting. That's really the way it's going to be. CJ Henderson, he had two shitty games, one good game, and then he got hurt. But he didn't do a whole lot in those two shitty games for me to say, like, this guy can't play.
He's from Florida, though.
Yeah, I know he's a Florida guy, right? CJ, you can cause me to eat my words about what I believe about Florida prospects. I believe they're horrible. Now, that being said, he has that potential, and I still want to wait. I still want to actually see him play before I really call it that, right? I want to make sure that I'm trying to be as fair as possible, and I'm not just harping just because of the university he went to.
I'm proud of you. That's a really good, reasonable.
I think that's a big boy thing to do, man.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do. But yeah, and I think I don't think we have a light it up. We're going to get 40 picks. We're going to lock you down. We don't have that kind. But we may have the kind that can hold a second longer to let the defensive line, let that front do its job and get to the cornerback. And I think we have decent backup. So if we lost CJ Henderson and we put in a Tyson Campbell, how much do we lose? If we lose Griffin and we put in a Sidney Jones, how much do we lose? I agree we overpaid Griffin. At least from what I believe, what I've seen from him, I think we overpaid him. But that's what you do in free agency. You overpay. So that's the cornerbacks. You have anything else to add?
Nah, I think that's pretty much it. There's not much else you can add. You haven't played yet. It's all potential. It doesn't jump out at me as anything spectacular, but I kind of agree with you. I think if the defense, I guess the only thing that I would add is it all depends on them buying into the program, the aggressiveness of the scheme, and them not, I don't think you need somebody to be a good team. You don't need players who are going, you don't need Deion Sanders back there all the time. You just need somebody who's not going to be beat, not going to allow wide open nonsense, because I think once you start to do that, other people stop doing their jobs, because the scheme becomes something nobody believes in anymore. And I think that's a lot of times what you end up seeing. All of a sudden, you just see these guys open for no reason, and it's just them, for whatever reason. Oh, that was my guy. That's the stuff I don't want to see. I don't mind these guys getting beat, but I don't want to see them pointing and looking at each other like, I thought you had that guy. I thought that was my assignment. That's the stuff that's got to stop.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but that just goes to learning the defense, understanding the call, and knowing what you're supposed to do. Really, are you handing the guy off because he's running out of your zone? And then that also goes with when you're running with the receiver and you look up, is the safety watching your area? Like, does he know you're about to hand him off? Is that communication there? I don't care if it's a thumbs up. I don't care what it is, but make sure that communication is there. And you're never going to get that unless you play consistently with somebody, unless you have those finger pointing, trying to figure out whose guy it was. But hopefully that takes place in the preseason and in training camp.
I just assume they don't know what the coverage is. Like, oh, I didn't know it was zone. I thought you said whatever, It's like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess sometimes that could be the case too. But I mean, get your hand signals.
Yeah.
Get your hand signals. Understand them. So I'm going to move on to linebackers. So linebackers, we have Miles Jack, Leon Jacobs, Dylan Moses, Shaquille Quarterman, Joe Schobert, Quincy Williams, and Damian Wilson. I don't think all these people are making the team.
Can't.
Nope. So right now, if you would have asked me, as a 4-3, who most likely would make the team, it's definitely Miles Jack. He's one of the main guys. It's Schobert, and then probably Leon Jacobs. However, I have this guy shouldn't be a dark horse candidate, but this Dylan Moses, have you seen anything about him from Alabama?
Yeah. I understand that there's a possibility he could be one of these diamond in the rough type guys where, the COVID thing, an injury, and you got a guy that basically has potential, that everybody saw in college. He played apparently very well in Alabama. I don't know how many years he got to play, like one, I suppose. And so I do know a little bit about that aspect of him. So I would say that he probably makes the team unless he doesn't, unless he just comes out and doesn't look the part. If he's anywhere near some of these other guys, I feel like they would, because he has sort of a pedigree, they will allow him the, I think he'll get the nod over maybe somebody else.
Right. So then we got Shaquille Quarterman from Jacksonville, right? He went to high school here. I can't recall the name of the high school, but it's over there. It's like the new part of Argyle.
Oh, he's from Jacksonville?
Yeah, he's from Jacksonville. His high school is over there in like the new section of Argyle.
Oakley.
Yeah, like Oakley. And actually, I think the high school's named Oakley.
Gotcha.
But that's where that's where he went to high school. He went to Miami. I think he's a fairly decent thumper, but he was a liability in pass.
Yeah, he looks like more of the old school type linebacker,
Yep.
so it makes me wonder if he can make it. And it's crazy too because he's smaller than some of the other guys. So not only is he not as fast, he's just not as big either.
So I mean, we'll have to see on him. I don't know whether he makes it or not. Another guy. So Quincy Williams, do you remember him?
Oh yeah, that's
He was
the Jaguars have the knack for drafting the bad playing brother. So if me and you played in the league, I think they'd draft you.
that's mean and that's hurtful. That's hurtful, Frank.
Well, I don't know. You beat me in
stuff like that. That's going to drive me to drink. I'm going to go have a beer when this podcast is over.
Well,
my sorrows.
You usually beat me in ping pong, so I'm sure other things too. So
yeah,
I might be that bad brother. I just talking smack. It might be.
No, it's fine, man. It was funny, dude. It was funny. It's a good rip.
Well, remember we had Aaron Rodgers' brother. We had Cam Newton's brother. Jordan Palmer, I think, was on our team for a couple.
Like what I remember about this guy was I thought he was sort of a smallish but very fast, potentially physical linebacker. To me, when they made this pick, I was thinking it was a replacement for the guy from FSU. I'm trying to think. Played linebacker, like quit the league for personal reasons. Telvin Smith.
Yeah.
So to me, when they drafted him, that was my thoughts. My thought was like, all right, they're trying to get speed and he's just been hurt. He's much like Josh Jones, right? So every now and again you'll hear a whisper that he's playing well, but he can't stay healthy. He hadn't been able to do anything. At this point, I think, move on, too many bodies, not enough holes.
Yeah.
So then we got Damian Wilson. I don't know a ton about him.
Yeah, I know he came from the Chiefs. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I don't know nothing about the guy. The guy's apparently been in the league for 7 years, and I feel like if I hear Damian Wilson from the Chiefs, I feel like I'm thinking about a running back. But I know it's not Wilson. There's a Damian somebody on there. I don't know, but it's like I don't know who this guy is, and so that speaks to me of just a pedestrian guy. I mean, who's not going to blow you. I mean, he's like Joel Schobert too. Really. I don't know. I don't know what to think about him. Maybe.
Well, so I mean, I think definitely Schobert and Miles Jack are our starters.
Yeah.
I think they can definitely play with whoever they want to put in on the other side in a 4-3. And then I think we may be able to have one or two guys rotate. So that way we actually have fresh bodies. I don't think outside of Miles Jack, I don't think we miss a whole lot if we had to go to our backups. The only thing, again, that bothers me about Miles Jack is watch. When the season starts for the first quarter, dude is going to light it up. And then he's going to decline. It happens every year so far. I'm not sure why, but that seems to be what happens with him. I hope it doesn't happen. Hopefully it's because he realized the rest of the team was horrible. So maybe he was a little bit lethargic and reacting because he knows he has to try to do all this, and he, a little bit overwhelmed. Lethargic probably was not the right term. But I think our linebackers are so-so. Nobody scares me. Nobody jumps off the page.
No, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out because we kind of touched on this with the last episode with the defensive line because of the way that we're going to be doing 3-4, 4-3
4
hybrid.
3.
It makes me wonder. I mean, one guy you didn't mention was Leon Jacobs, and I know
I mentioned him.
you did.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't talk much about him.
No, no, because I have him in as the starter in a 4-3. So I have Miles Jack,
Really?
Schobert, and Leon Jacobs. There's your starters for the 4-3. Jacobs to me can play well. Every now and again, he'll make a splash play, but I've never seen consistency from him. And most of the time he's hurt. So it's like, oh,
Yeah, I feel like the thing about Jacobs that jumps off to me is that they just had this talk about him as being this guy they didn't expect to be this good. And so, especially on the heels of having Quincy Williams, so you're looking at him and he sucks all of a sudden, and Leon Jacobs comes to the front, and but to me, when I watch him play, I don't know, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Taven Bryant in linebacker form. I feel like he sometimes he just doesn't know what's going on. He seems plenty fast. He seems plenty strong, but he just doesn't make plays for my satisfaction. But
man, that's you basically just characterized our entire team for the last 20 years.
yeah, that's
Which way did he
true.
go? Which way did he go?
Yeah, and so I definitely wouldn't be surprised if he makes the team or contributes well because he seems like he's got potential to do it. And if you just get everybody on the same page, kind of like what I was talking about with secondary, and everybody knows their niche and their role, and everybody feels comfortable in the scheme, I think maybe you may see guys that otherwise were not performing well all of a sudden perform well. I mean, it could easily happen that way. I mean, and I think that's what we're hoping for
Yeah,
with
yeah. I mean, but
this whole
most of the
change.
time, you see that with that winning bug. That's sort of what winning will do for you. It will motivate you to do more, to go further, longer, stronger, however you want to quote it. But that's what winning will do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's all
here's the
about that.
hoping.
It's all about that confidence, man. The best players, man, you see them get on the winning streak. Where I in my mind I kind of think basketball because it's the most easy to see. But when somebody's on one of those streaks where they're just every shot goes in, it's like they just think the shot's going in, and their body makes it go in. Obviously they're skilled and it's muscle memory, but they also have times when it's not that way. And I think what ends up happening is that you can see that in one player, but I think that can translate to a whole team. And you get these teams where if you can just provide stability, which like you just mentioned is something we have not had. We have not had that consistency and the stability to weather the times when people aren't quite at their game, and then everybody reaches certain points where they're confident in each other and the scheme. All of a sudden you play better, all of a sudden you look more skillful.
All right. Well, that is all I had for the defense. So now we have covered the defensive line, the linebackers, the cornerbacks, and the safeties. Frank, buddy, it's your turn on offense.
uh okay, so you wanted to deal with offense. I didn't realize that. No, I'm just kidding. um yeah,
You are
so
the worst brother.
what's that?
No, I said you are the worst brother.
Oh, so you can't start on offense and not start with quarterback. And having said that, the Jaguars have a quarterback that they drafted, and I need to look up the name of the guy. Let me see. He's a pretty good player here.
Jake Luton.
Is it Jake Luton?
Yeah, Jake Luton.
Luton?
Yeah,
Is
Luton.
that him? It
That's
is.
him.
JL. So obviously Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you got to start with Trevor Lawrence.
That's
So
because, look, in the immortal words of Metallica, nothing else matters.
I mean, it's funny because in quarterback, it is such a team game, but yeah, I mean, like if you just don't have that guy, and this is no slight to anybody else, I feel bad for Gardner in a certain sense, not too much, but I mean, he had the opportunity, but I think the team around him was so bad last year, the whole situation so bad that
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think he is a decent quarterback. I think he can win in this league. I really do. But when you have a chance to take somebody like Trevor Lawrence, you do it. The guy's got everything you want in a quarterback. And, you know, this is the type of quarterback that can make provide an opportunity for somebody like Urban Meyer, who is apparently allergic to losing, and he will actually not only go into the NFL, which is notoriously difficult to win in, he'll go to the Jaguars. And there's no way in the world that he would be the coach of our team if Trevor Lawrence was not in reach.
correct.
Um,
Correct.
the opportunity to draft him. So, okay. So in regards to this, you know, it was kind of funny when they talked about, well, we haven't quite made our decision about who we're drafting. You know, there was that talk, and now you get Schottenheimer comes out and says,
It's an
well,
open
the
competition. Yeah.
quarterback, the starter hasn't been named. I can't remember how he said it, but it's sort of silly, but it's the coach speak that they kind of do. Just basically saying that, yeah, you haven't. I guess technically you don't have to name the starter, so you're not going to. But that being said, I mean, obviously, the question to me is does Gardner Minshew stick around? I didn't think he would because of the way everybody talked, you know, and you know that I was on board. I'm like, I never understood this concept that you can't have two good quarterbacks, or you can't have some quarterback that wants to actually start, or you can't have a competition for some reason. I never understood this. I know it's a legit thing because NFL players who I trust their opinion say and believe that this is the case. So I understand it to be a phenomenon. So I would still lean toward the fact that probably that means Gardner Minshew isn't going to be around when the season starts for that reason. But it is starting to look like there tends to be a little bit more trajectory for that possibility. So that's interesting. What do you think about that possibility
Uh,
that Gardner's still around?
Personally, the same thing I felt when the season ended. We're getting Trevor Lawrence. He's our dude. He's starting. It doesn't matter what the hell Schottenheimer says. He's a liar. Trevor Lawrence is day one starter, barring injury. Two, right now, now granted, it's right now. So there's still some football, there's still training camp, there's still some stuff to go through. But right now, what we're hearing is that Gardner Minshew is looking much better than Beathard. If that's the case, you roll into the season with Gardner Minshew as the number two. If you can't get out of Beathard's contract, maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you thought you had a deal set up for Gardner. It fell through. Maybe it was Chicago who ended up drafting Fields, and who they didn't think was going to be there. There are scenarios that go on behind the scenes we don't know about. So it's possible they were trying to hedge their bet and just make sure they had some kind of a quality backup. But I think Minshew's two. I think when we start the season, he'll be two. Beathard to be three. Jake Luton will be on the practice squad. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, unless Beathard shows, and I admittedly didn't watch a lot of the 49ers, so I didn't, I can't.
I saw a few of his games and he looked okay. He didn't look. He's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not Peyton Manning. Hell, he's not even Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think he can be serviceable in a pinch in a game or two.
Is it Gardner Minshew? That's what we need to know.
I actually think Gardner's better than him.
All right, there you go. Okay, so the next question, backfield, sticking in the backfield, quarterback to halfback. So we have James Robinson,
Yep.
diamond in the rough. What do you not like about James Robinson? I mean, this guy looks like everything you'd want in a running back. I mean, he could be a little faster, but I mean, that's just splitting hairs. And
So
then we went and drafted Travis Etienne, and I don't want to rehash the fact that we didn't think that that was the greatest pick in terms of we just don't like the. Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for you. I I was of this mindset. I thought you were with me that just from a philosophical standpoint, drafting and and using a number one draft pick on a running back isn't the way you want to go typically. So in that case, they must have something in mind. They must be looking at this thing in some way. And it's interesting too, because the only way I can see this being viable, not viable, but worth the draft capital spent is that you legitimately think this guy is Alvin Kamara, sort of. I mean, he could be close, not quite there, and it'd still be worth it. Um, and so what does that make Robinson, Mark Ingram? I mean, are we trying to do what the Saints did?
okay, so here's the way that I think it's going to go out. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a little to the left, a little to the right, but it will probably be somewhere around 70-30 split for actually running the ball, where James Robinson will get 70% of those carries. ETN will get another 30%. I understand that's 100. Take a little bit off of each, and then you have Carlos Hyde. I don't think Carlos Hyde, barring injury, sees the field a ton.
Yeah, I agree.
With that being said, I think there will be some times where we'll see James Robinson and ETN in the same potential backfield. I think there'll be times where we'll see ETN in the backfield, but then motion out to a wide receiver. I think ETN will probably have about 30 plays in the playbook specifically for ETN plays. I am of the mindset you do not draft a running back in the first round because they just typically do not pan out. And you can get decent value in the second, third, fourth, fifth, undrafted.
Sort of did that last year.
Right? Yeah. However, let me ask you this. If you believed that ETN was a playmaker in a bottle, however you want to, and he was potentially, we don't know for sure, the highest graded player on your board, would you not take that just because he was a running back?
It goes back to what I've said before. The way you phrase that, I would say I would take him. Okay. Begrudgingly take him. But
Yep.
So I have a hard time thinking that he would be based on the way I see. But see, I don't see things from their perspective. And this is where it always comes down to, and I don't want to dive back into where we went last week, but they have the information. They get paid to have that information and to make the decision. So I can be wrong on these things because I'm ignorant. I'm in a ignorant position. So they have that information. So I hope the heck they have some information that leads them to what you're saying, that this is this playmaker. Now, I will say he does look kind of like a playmaker. I mean, I think he averaged like 7 yards a carry at Clemson. I mean, the guy is dynamic. He is the type of running back that you could see that, if you want a 1-2 punch, you typically don't want the same style of running back.
Right.
So there's that. He does match that concept. I like the idea of focusing on the run, especially with a rookie quarterback, especially with an offensive line that its one issue seemed to be, and it was severe, pass blocking. So if you get some positive run plays when you call run, I think it can take pressure off both the offensive line and the quarterback if it's done right. I think the
Yeah, I mean,
concept.
I think it really depends on how they use him.
Yeah.
I don't think ETN has earned the right, even as a first round draft pick, to come in here and replace Robinson.
Oh no, and I don't even think
Uh,
they're talking that way.
yeah, and nothing
No
I've
way.
heard has said that. But I think if they use him right, if they use him correctly, ETN can definitely have some value. Can he have first round value? For most teams, probably, maybe not. For us, hell yeah, because
It would.
all of our first rounders have been horrible. Some of them have just been atrocious. So again, I'm not upset about it. I wouldn't have necessarily drafted one of those two guys in the position because again, I think if I had an offensive lineman close to ETN, I'd have picked ETN or I'd have picked the offensive lineman. If it was ETN and an offensive lineman, I would have went ETN. I would have went with the best playmaker on my board, even though we have James Robinson.
Yeah, so I think we can pretty much kind of leave that there. It'd be interesting to see what other teams where they had him drafted. I'd feel a little, or listed. I'd feel a little bit better if almost everybody had him in the top or the bottom half of the second round or first round. I mean, that would make me feel a lot better about the pick.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but
and
we'll never know.
and we won't. And you know what? And it honestly, that would make me feel better now. But it really, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't even matter. What matters is how they use
It's
them
his
and what
production on
happens.
yes, his production on the field. That's what matters.
Okay,
So,
so to that point, let's move to the wide receivers.
boom.
Okay, so the number one clear wide receiver for me is DJ Chark. He's the guy, he's the future of the wide receivers. He's the one who, when it comes to contracts, he's the one that you're hoping you sign. He's the the X wide receiver. I mean, he's the guy that's going to be. He looks like the prototypical big play wide receiver that you need, and he seems to have that potential. Yes, it was a down year last year. Maybe everything going on around will prop him up. So let me run through the wide receivers real quick, and then I'll just hand it over to you. And I just want to get your, well, I'll throw the big three at you. Let's do that. So DJ Chart, Lavisca Chenault, and Marvin Jones. I think those would be our three
Yeah, I
wideout
would
set.
I
So
would call that our opening day starters.
okay, so
Uh,
what you got? What you thought? What are your thoughts?
so DJ Chark, I thought DJ Chark at times played very well last year. I thought at other times he completely disappeared. He seemed to be handled a little bit more by the cornerbacks. So I don't know exactly what was going on. It could have been the whole team because again, we're talking about this, and as we do it by positions, Miles Jack seemed to be that way. CJ Henderson seemed to be that way. As we go through and recount last year, we keep seeing where our players are either giving up or they just falling off. They don't care, whatever happened. Something happened. But he also has that rookie year potential in him where he can be the legit number one. I've seen plays out of him that are dynamic, that are sweet, and you want him to continue on that path. Chenault is our Beasley. He is our Julian Edelman. He is our quick twitch. Get the ball to him when you need it, when you can. Let him make a play because there's not a safety that's gonna hang with him. There's most likely not a nickel corner that's going to hang with him, and there's definitely no linebacker that's going to hang with him. So again, he's somebody who I think that you actually need to make plays for and get him 10 to 11 plays per game if you can. Uh, Marvin Jones is a vet who is wily, crafty. You know, I think he's fine as a number two. We have other guys. We have Colin Johnson, who the few times we saw him last year with decent cornerback play, I don't think he dropped a ball. Yeah. We have that other guy I really, really want to see in training camp and in the preseason, the guy from Georgia Tech.
Jalen Camp.
Yeah, Jalen Camp. I
Yeah,
really,
he
really want to
looks.
see him. He may be that I don't want to call him a dark horse,
Yeah.
but he may be that guy that you're like, damn, that dude can play.
Well, Georgia Tech, man, it's something about that school. Like I said, Calvin Johnson, Demarius Thomas, they don't produce at Georgia Tech because of the offense, but you can see their potential to produce on a team that utilizes wide receivers more. So that concept makes me feel a little bit better about him. But like I have said this before, I think I mentioned, I don't know how, and I'm not putting this label on him at this point, but I have said that I can watch wide receivers and I get a feeling for watching them move. And I've been right most of the times if they can translate from college to the pros. And I think he looks like that a little bit to me, but I'm not going to put that label yet because I only saw a little bit of him. But what I saw jumped to me. I was like, I'm watching this guy. He looks like an NFL wide receiver to me. So I don't expect much this year, but I would not be surprised if we start seeing him when we see him get an opportunity, if he doesn't start doing stuff that makes you go, maybe he's something.
So while there are better 3 starting wide receivers in the NFL, I think ours are fairly good. You know, I think with Chark, Chenault, and Marvin Jones, I think those 3 as our starting wide receivers, I think that's a fairly decent tandem. It's a tandem I don't have any problems rolling out there with. And then if you add Colin Johnson, and maybe if Camp gives you something. Now, I don't know exactly who's behind those guys. I think I'm missing somebody. But I didn't do any research on the offense. I just gave it to you.
Well, here's probably who you're thinking about. The guy that seems to be the guy that would be next up based on, if they created a depth chart, I would say would be, well, first of all, we brought up Jalen Camp, but he wouldn't be as high as we're talking about him on the depth chart. Philip Dorsett is the guy that seems to be.
So Philip Dorsett went to Miami. That guy I know, and he was really, really decent in college. So I expected to see something out of him when he came to the pros, and he shit himself. I'm not expecting anything of Philip Dorsett. Nothing.
Well, in like manner, we also, in the past couple days, have just gotten Laquan Treadwell.
I'm not expecting anything of him either.
Yeah, and so here are these 2 guys who are first-round wide receivers. Well, was Dorsett a first-round wide receiver? I don't know.
I don't know. I can't recall.
Treadwell was. And yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you can't – that's just like bring a guy in, hope for some reason they've had something going on that caused issues that's now out of the way, and their talent effervesces to the surface and they become whoever people used to think they were. So yeah, and that's good in this respect. We're not relying on that. We don't care if we don't have those guys make or turn their career around, it doesn't matter to us. As long as we don't have a rash of wide receiver injuries, we should be fine.
Right. So after talking about it, honestly, after our starting 3, we have no depth.
Yeah, and that's because those 2 guys you don't have any confidence in. so that being said, the fact that they've got Travis Etienne apparently working into the wide receiver core, maybe that makes me feel a little bit better about that pick. I don't know. We've got Jamal Agnew, but he's pretty much just
Special
their
team.
special teams guy. You don't expect to see anything in the actual offense portion. There's a guy that we drafted, Josh Amitubebe. Are you familiar with him at all? Apparently, this guy is a physical guy. He set some sort of record for the high jump. And now, what is it? But I'll be honest, when I watched his tape, YouTube or whatever you call it.
Yeah, no, it's not tape, it's highlights.
Yeah. Um, he didn't flash to me. I saw an interview. He looks, I want him to succeed based on his personality, but his tape didn't flash to me. So if I have to guess, I think Camp is the guy I'm expecting things from. And Imatabebe, I'm thinking probably will be here for a couple years until he's not. But he's somebody to look out for because and again, those guys, I'm just giving. I have not looked at them in much at all. So I may change my tune. I'll probably look into those guys and just to try to iron out my thoughts on those two. But that being said, tight ends, I as basically where we've got to go. And that, man, I don't know where to begin there. That's just a bunch of guys, it's man hurts.
And that's what it is. It's a bunch of guys. Pick the best three. Pick the top three that win the job out of training camp.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man. It's like people are, talking about Tebow and stuff. And it's, I don't think much of Tebow as far as a position, because what can you say? You don't know anything about him. Manhurts and O'Shaughnessy seem to be the clear, in a way, guys that are going to be the ones that we rely on for that position. And the other guys, so we got Ben Olafson, Tyler Davis, Luke Farrell. What strikes me is these guys are all the same size as Tim Tebow, basically. So as much as people complain about the size of Tim Tebow, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, yeah, he's a little bit undersized, but that's a problem for us because not only are we talking about a tight end room that seems to be lacking any sort of potential that we know of, they don't seem to even have the size that you would want in a tight end class or a tight end room. So, boy, there was some little bit of talk about Zach Ertz. I really would feel a lot better to see him or somebody like him in the mix.
You know what? If I had to pick the worst group on offense, it's tight end. It's going to be tight end until we draft somebody. We haven't put
not even close.
Yeah, we haven't put anything. We brought in Manhurts, and they say he is one of the best blocking tight ends. Okay, cool. So you know what that means? That means we're going to run the ball, and I'm okay running the ball. Okay. I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. But at some point, you're going to have to pass. You would like to have some kind of a pass catching move tight end. And I don't think we have anybody on the team that scares any defensive coordinator. You'll have O'Shaughnessy do, I think, what he's always done. He'll make a play here or there. I think Manhurst will make a play here or there because teams are going to say he's the blocker, he's staying in, he'll sneak out, he'll make a play here or there. But I don't think it's going to be anything more than like Mercedes Lewis his last year here. I think he had one game where he blew up for some reason. And then
Ravens.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they were doing. But
he's had a couple games not like that, but I mean good games. Yeah, I've never understood that. But I tell you what, I didn't understand why we released him either. That never made sense to me. I was like, who do we have on our squad? What
Well,
anyway, that's the past.
that's
I don't want to
what we always did.
dive into how dumb we've been in the past,
Yep.
but so yeah, I mean, is there
So
anything else you want to?
no, I mean Manhurst is your blocker. O'Shaughnessy is your move catch tight end.
Here's
I don't.
here's here's what I would say. I can see it now, and I'm gonna call it now. Goal line, man hurts and tight end. I mean, that's not anything to call. Obviously, that's going to happen with Tebow at fullback. I'm calling it now.
And that's the potential. If they want to use him as an H-back type guy, I'm okay with that. I'm okay if you keep him on the 53-man roster for special teams and for 3 or 4 special plays where you need 2 yards for a first down or a yard or 2
For
for
fiery speeches in the locker room.
okay,
That's a joke.
I'm okay with that. I even expect that a little bit. Because truth is that if we're keeping Tebow, we're letting go of the other 2 guys, right? Because we're going to keep the draft pick. Whether we move him to our practice squad or not, I don't know. But we'll probably actually end up keeping him. So you got Manhurst, you got O'Shaughnessy, you got Farrell, and then you have Tim Tebow. Those are probably going to be our 4 tight ends. The other 2, if they can be moved to the practice squad, probably would. If not, I think they're going to be let go because we don't have any contractual obligations to them. And now, are they better than Tebow as a tight end? Possibly. Are they better than Tebow as an H-back? Maybe not. And it really depends on what kind of role you foresee for Tim Tebow. I don't think it's going to be the standard tight end role.
No, I think I envision him actually being somewhat successful in certain schemes. Like I could see him going out and just blowing some linebackers up. I mean, I think people underestimate how physical this guy is. And I think I mentioned before how, some of the former players or other players were talking, just talking smack about, oh, I'd lick my chops if I saw Tim Tebow lining up at tight end. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I know what they're saying, but they're talking about it in terms of former quarterback, and that's all they're thinking about. This is a physical freak of a guy, not in terms of speed, but in terms of power and will. You don't want to see this type of guy.
Well,
And you
again,
don't want to underestimate him. You don't want to come at him and go, oh, I'm licking my chops, because guess what? He's licking his chops too, because he probably heard you say that, and he probably knows everybody's licking their chops. And I could, I didn't want to make this about Tebow, but I just think he could be I could see, and he's not going to be like of any sort of statistical thing. It's just going to be every now and again you may see this play that somebody draws up, and you're going to see him make this block that springs somebody. I mean, that's going to be the type of player he's going to be.
If you have a design for Tim Tebow, I'm okay with it. Otherwise, give me the 4 best guys on our roster. If one of them happens to be Tebow, cool, he earned it. If not, goodbye, see you later. And that's really the way I feel about it.
Well, I'd feel a lot better if they brought Zach Ertz in.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Because right now, like I said, our tight end room, it's sort of horrible.
Are there any other candidates out there? What happened to David Njoku or somebody like that? I thought there was some guys out there that would go after.
No, because he was disgruntled in Cleveland, and now he's happy. Exactly why or how, I don't know.
They're supposed to be successful, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, anyway,
I don't know.
I mean, honestly, if that's the worst position on your team is tight end, I guess, honestly, that's probably the best place to be the worst at. That being said, I mean.
Yeah, because at least it's not a blocker, and you can always send Robinson or ETN out in the route.
Yeah. So there you go. So, and that's what good coaching does. Good coaching isolates or minimizes your weakness, maximizes their. So
Yep.
it's up to the coaching staffs to figure out how to best use that squad. And I mean, what can we expect? We were 1-15 last year. It's not like we're going to have this amazing roster all of a sudden in 1 year's time. So got to be reasonable. So I guess that's going to call it a day. So appreciate you guys joining us. You know what to do if you like it and all that jazz. I'm not going to patronize or beg.
Please, come on, Frank.
Yeah, man.
Let me rock that donkey. Let me rock
Like I
that.
said, I listen to a lot of YouTube. That is one thing that gets on my nerves, like right out the gate. They're like,
I
if you
told
like
you, man,
it.
a lot of people do that. Hit that like button, hit that
Yeah.
subscribe button. I'm like, dude, I ain't getting shit.
I get it. You're supposed to do it if you want to have some success, but it's like, man, it just, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to do it. But that was what I said it. So let's get the Duval and let's get on out of here.
Duval.
Duval.
Bye, guys. Thanks
See
for
ya.
watching.